Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Golf Podcast. This is episode number 296. In a little bit, we're going to dive into a topic, specifically if any of you are struggling a little bit around the green, we want to talk about mastering the art of chipping from the rough. So obviously on certain golf courses, you're going to have that rough that gets really in tight to the green. Other times, maybe you're just a little bit, further away than you'd like to be, and you're going to have to chip from the thick stuff. So we're going to give you a couple tips that are going to help. We've been in there enough, right, Mike?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
we've got plenty of experience in
we
this
miss
spot.
greens just like you guys. Yep.
Plenty of time. So there's some things that you can do as far as like strategies, setup, things that we've been working with and working on, and it's helping. So it's something that we want to dive into, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. Also, just want to say thank you to everybody who's been leaving reviews for the show on iTunes. We love that. We love to see that. It really helps us grow the show. We've got some great reviews that have rolled in over the last couple of weeks. If you haven't already done so, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast so you can get those notifications as soon as a new one drops. And if you could take a minute to leave a review, we would very much appreciate it. We do read them all, and we do appreciate them all. The feedback is excellent. It really helps us how we're going to kind of steer the ship. So it is important to us, and we appreciate it. And speaking of podcasts, a new podcast on the Golficity platform just went live today. Mike, how exciting is that?
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I love the conversation that these guys are having. You and I, we don't talk tour too much. I mean, that's not our thing. And I love what these guys have planned.
Yeah. So this is the Pin High podcast. Their first episode just dropped this week. You guys definitely got to check them out. You can get all of their episodes, as with the episodes of this podcast, right in the Golficity app, which is free. So make sure you download it, and you're going to be seeing them popping up on all your favorite podcast platforms. And like Mike said, it's definitely different than what we do here, but that's a good thing. We were looking for options and chances and different ways that we can bring more and new and unique voices to Golficity. We know, look, you can only cover so much in one show. We like to dig into some of our own experiences, like learning the game and just some of the different things we get to experience as we grow Golficity as a platform. So we get to chat about that here. We don't always get to dive into PGA Tour. So I think it was something that Golficity really needed. And I think the guys do a great job with it. And look, DFS is something that's growing tremendously.
Big time, yeah.
Big time. So I know there's a lot of guys out there who are, it's even helping in a certain way. I think it's helping grow the game, because you're getting people who maybe were playing, football fantasy, baseball fantasy, and they wanted to get into some other sports and are starting to dip their toe into golf. And I think it's bringing more viewership to the PGA Tour. So I think that, that helps. And I think even the PGA Tour is recognizing that, because you're starting to see them run their own fantasy leagues. So it's a great spot for that. So make sure you guys give that a listen. Leave them reviews too. Let them know what you think about the show, because I'm sure that they would appreciate that feedback. Mike, speaking of the PGA Tour,
yeah,
we're going to be coming up on 2020, and believe it or not, what's it, 5 weeks? 6 weeks.
Is it that quick?
It's that quick, dude. We're mid-November. We've got about 6 weeks until January. And of course, we see the real, beginning swing of the PGA Tour start to kick off with Hawaii, Kapalua, all those things. So we posed the question on Twitter. We said, what are 3 things you would like to see happen on the PGA Tour in 2020? And
Love
Mike,
it.
Any of them stand out for you?
Well, Ricky winning a major seems to be a common theme.
That's
here.
what I posted.
That was
too.
one of yours. I mean, You had Tiger get number 83, Ryder Cup victory, and Ricky winning a major. All great responses. I was going to come out with a funny joke. I was going to say Tiger wins major 16, 17, and 18. Those are my 3. But no, just looking down the list, some of these things are great. Mario says he'd love to see Rory, Tiger, and Koepka pair in final pairings of the Masters, with Tiger prevailing. He said Ricky win a major and pace of play penalty.
You know what? It was a common theme that we saw throughout this of pace of play. Everyone would like to see that kind of moved along a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of been a thorn in the PGA Tour's side, especially with certain players who we know are just notoriously slow out there. I just think it's a tough thing to do to solve. It's not something that's going to be solved overnight, and I don't think it's going to be solved by just throwing penalties at people. I think that they've got to have a little bit more creative ways to do it. But yeah, going back to Ricky, I don't think he needs a major win to be validated. I mean, you look at the career that he's had already, but I wish it for him because I'd love to see that monkey off his back. 100%. Of getting a major win. And I think he's a guy that's so well respected and loved by everybody on tour. I think everyone would like to see it happen. I also think he's a guy who's incredibly good for the game. He's an ambassador of the game. We got to see that firsthand when we were at Bay Hill, and he always does incredible stuff with he was very close with Arnold Palmer, and to see him as the host there and to speak, you really get a feel of how good he is overall for the game as like I said, an ambassador of it. So I'd love to see him get that monkey off his back and get a major win for sure.
100%. He's just an all-around great dude. When I first met him back at Ridgewood like 3-4 years ago, I was walking through the media parking lot, and he was getting out of this beautiful burgundy S500 Mercedes with Florida plates on it. Now, we're in New Jersey. These guys, they come in, they get their BMW for the week. He didn't have that. He had something completely unique. And my pickup line, so to speak, first time ever talking to Ricky Fowler, I was like, hey, sweet ride right there, huh? And he's like, he said, hey, not bad, huh? He goes, well, I work close with Mercedes, and this is what we hooked me up for the week. And it was so cool because in the backseat, he had all his shirts for the week. Yeah. And he took the time. He took a photo with my wife, and, just all around great dude. And then every time we've met him after, like you said, we got a picture with him at the Arnold Palmer. Just great dude, gives back to the game. I hope he wins a major. I am rooting for him big time.
No doubt about it. All I've ever seen out of that guy is a ton of patience when it comes to any interaction with the fans. So a lot of respect for that. But anyway, fun question. Like I said, there's definitely some themes. We won't read all of the responses. You guys can check them out on our Twitter account. Also, if you have some of your own, let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment them below. You can comment them in Golficity or in the Golficity app. I'd still love to hear some other suggestions of what you'd like to see in 2020, because I'm sure it's going to turn out to be yet another incredible year on the PGA Tour. Mike, the season's not over yet, though. You played today, right?
Yeah.
You and I are hoping to play Friday. We are talking about some snow possibly rolling in, unfortunately. But, like I said, if the course is open, we're playing, like we've said before.
Absolutely, 100%.
But you got to play a little bit today. Today wasn't so bad. It was 50 degrees, something like that.
It was 55 at tee off. It was that dark, gray cloud autumn day.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what's killing me, man?
What's that?
3 putts.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? It's that second putt is usually within 2 to 3 feet. It's those short ones. I can't tell you how many times from Baltusrol was the last round we played before today's round. So I had a nice gap. That wasn't an excuse. A week and a half is not a long gap to fall apart. But at Baltusrol, and today I played at Spook Rock here in Suffern, New York. But I think I had birdie opportunities turned into bogeys at least 8 or 9 times between the 2 rounds.
2 feet. I mean, that's short. We talking yips? What's going on?
Big yips. And you know what? Because, the way that some of these pins are located, some of these 3-footers are a little bendy. So, pace and speed are everything. I mean, I hit it too soft. It falls down way below and it runs past the hole. So I need to work on 2 things, I think, in this offseason: lag putts and short putts. And just basically, if it's one thing, it's just putting in general. I've identified it as being my incredible weakness in this game. If I had to guess, I'm leaving 5 or 6 strokes out there. It's that bad. Yeah. That bad lately. And, I hope we can do that this offseason, try to do more putting type of instruction.
Yeah, like what we did with Spreck in last March, right? But you know what? It sounds like, especially if you're saying like you're missing 2 footers short, it sounds like a case of possibly overthinking it.
Big
know,
time.
and that's what we talk about,
totally
the yips, like nervousness over it. I think it's just a matter of gaining that confidence level, because it's so funny. Like I'll go out there when I play with you, and you'll approach a 20 to 30 footer with so much confidence. It's like almost laughable.
It is. It's funny,
right?
right?
And you would just like go out there like, yeah, I got this or whatever. But then now you're saying that other range, you have no confidence. So you got to kind of think, what is it that gave you that confidence from distance, and how can you get that from short? It probably was just a matter of like holding a couple and getting your confidence, going out there, possibly just grinding it out and practicing it.
That must be it. I mean, my knees knock harder every foot closer to the hole. I just don't.
Yeah.
It's probably a common theme
Well,
for a lot of
stress
people.
goes up because as you get closer to the hole, the more you realize that you should make this putt. There's a little bit of pressure off of you on a 30, 40 footer, because you shouldn't necessarily make that putt.
You're right.
I mean, obviously the pressure is to get it close to 2 putt, but as the pressure goes up. So it's actually it's an interesting segue, because we talked with Sprecher not too long ago about stress and what stress does to the game and how you can kind of change different things. But even more recently, we talked about simulating stress in your practice. So when you say something like that, like missing close, putts, my mind immediately goes towards some of those different, putting drills we do where you maybe put like a whole bunch of balls around the hole and you've got to sink them all, or you have to start over. Something that simulates that pressure, because chances are with 2-foot putts, you're not practicing them under pressure. That may be the type of putt you go out there and you're just kind of hitting just to warm up a bit, but you're not practicing the pressure. So that made me got me thinking a little bit. We last week, remember I mentioned game like training?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So those guys were cool enough. They heard the show, and look how quickly they sent me their book.
There you go.
Right? So as you started to say that, I started to thumb through here, Mike, and I'm looking at some of their putting challenges. Now, I literally got this book an hour ago. I checked my mail when I got home, and I just got this. So I have not had a chance to dive into it. I just started like browsing through it before dinner, and I'm like, this is something I got to chew on a bit, because there's a lot in here. But we talked before about how a lot of what they do is simulating that pressure by making like almost this circuit training where you have to do a certain series to complete the circuit, or you have to start over. And they've got a lot of putting stuff like that in here. It says, let's see, your ability to hole out under stress is what this works on. But it was actually kind of cool. They've got a number of different practice circuits in here. There's one here that I like on compression. There was another one I liked on ball striking. And they break it down to beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. And they'll tell you what, as a beginner, what you'd have to do as an intermediate. And if you're an advanced golfer, obviously it gets harder and harder. But one thing that they have is, for instance, you'll tee up 5 different golf balls at different heights, right? And they'll make you go through and try to make solid contact at every height. And the reason being, because obviously you want to be able to adapt your club to different situations, like when you get different lies and things like that. So I thought that was very interesting. He said, place 5 balls, different tee heights, hit all 5 balls, giving yourself 1 point every time you strike the ball cleanly. Repeat 4 times, total of 20 balls, and record your best score. So they got a lot of that type of stuff in here. And like I said, I'm going to give myself more time to digest it. And then we're going to talk about getting these guys on the show, because I think that's what it really comes down to, is like, we got to find ways to practice this stuff so we can do it under pressure. And now, once it's in your head, I've been there with so many different areas of my game, and I'm sure I'm there with at least a few right now. Once it's in your head, and you've seen it with me with chipping, was a big one. The pressure only grows because now you're standing over it thinking, I got to get this area of my game better. And you start to I got to execute, and you start to put this bigger and bigger stress on yourself. So it makes it harder and harder. So it's interesting. I'll have to lend you this too and see if maybe some of this putting stuff can help you.
We got some plane travel coming up. That'll be good. Bring that along.
That's right. It's nice too. It's a quick read. It's pretty short, but you can kind of go back and reference it. So I'll have to check that out. And I don't even know if they sell this book. I guess they do. I just got it. If so, I'll find it. Maybe it's on Amazon or something. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But like I said, I got it an hour ago, so I can't tell you too much about it. But anyway, like we said, we're going to play a little bit. We're going to play Friday, right? Packanack. We're going to try to get out there.
You said we got snow coming for sure. Is that really happening?
I hear, you know how it is. The first snow of the season, everyone talks about it like
Everyone's
it's coming. It doesn't
crazy
necessarily
right now, right?
Yeah.
I got 38 and sunny Friday. 38. Oh.
38 and sunny.
38.
He says it like he said 78. Unbelievable. You know, it's so funny how much our perspective changes as the season goes on. Like, right. So the first snow of the year, like if it's like an inch, everyone loses their mind. Right. By the time we reach like March, anything under 5 inches is like, you don't even think about it. You're like, I don't know what I got to dust my car off, I guess. Right.
Exactly.
But
I hope we get out there. I heard good things about this club. We're going to be over Packanack Lake Golf Club, Packanack, New Jersey. We're going to go take a little stroll around that course. Maybe attempt the 14 club challenge. If we
we're going to possibly use that opportunity because not only have we wanted to do it, how many times have we heard it in the comments? People are like, you got to try the 14 club challenge. And they're right. You know, we've been saying the same. So if we get the opportunity, I'd love to do it. Sure. But all right, I want to talk about this chipping from the rough. What do you say first, Mike? Want to pay some bills real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, the new Titleist T-Series irons, they represent an unbelievable amount of imagination, ingenuity, brilliance, and determination. Not only that, they might be the prettiest clubs I think I've ever held in my life. They're so darn sweet. But all those reasons is precisely what they are designed to unlock within a player's game. The Titleist T-Series irons provide a mix of performance and pure playability, and it lets golfers who get it, get after courses like never before. Visit Titleist.com to learn more about the T-Series irons.
Yeah, and flashback just a couple episodes ago, we dove in deep with them, just talking about what some of the advancements were and why we're seeing those gains. But we really are seeing some gains, and I'd love for you guys to check those out too. Also, if you've been listening to the show this season, you've heard us talk a lot about the shot scope. You see us using it in our videos to check our distances and things like that. But if you're new to the show, if you've just discovered Golficity, let me fill you in a little bit. The ShotScope V2 is the world's smartest golf watch. It has over 40,000 courses mapped, and they offer incredible stat tracking technology, which is going to help you off the course. So basically, when you're on the course, it acts as a GPS watch. You've got your distances to front, back, middle, distances to your hazards, and it is incredibly laser-like accurate distances. We've tested it against rangefinders. I'll be honest with you, 99% of the time, we don't even have a rangefinder out there with us because we've just become so reliant on it. I trust it. I know the distances are correct. I think the few times we ever brought a rangefinder out there was when we're doing very specific challenges where we had to shoot something. But beyond that, I mean, I lean on it. I know it's accurate, and I know when I get my distances, especially that green, I'm always looking for that back number, that front number, and then just kind of going from there. So it's very accurate, but again, the magic is happening in the background. There's these little tags that go on the end of each club, and it works with the watch with some sort of crazy voodoo magic, so that in the background while you're playing your game, everything just it tracks GPS tags every single shot. You can go back through, you can look at your data, and you get all those juicy statistics that we're always looking for. So you guys got to check this out. Get yourself a ShotScope V2 by visiting shotscope.com/Golficity or use code V2 Golficity for $30 off. In fact, Mike, don't they have even bigger discount right now?
Bigger. It just came out. There's what they call a festive offer. I guess it's a holiday offer.
Yes.
$139.
Come on.
Right now.
Yeah.
Guys, jump on it. Seriously.
No brainer. Like I said, I mean, you're not going to get even just one of those functions, tracking or GPS for that. You get both. It's crazy. Guys, we also want to thank FootJoy. FootJoy is the #1 outerwear brand in golf, and they ensure that you can make every day playable with rain jackets that fit all weather conditions. And new to the FJ Performance outerwear lineup this year is the all-new DryJoy Select LS. It's the lightest, it's the most waterproof garment that FootJoy has ever produced. It's setting a new standard in rainwear. This thing is legit. Amazingly, too, it's actually lighter than a golf shirt, but it's still fully waterproof. You guys have to see this thing. Check it out. So shop now. Go to footjoy.com/MEDP. Make every day playable, baby.
You know what? I love when it happens when you and I end up wearing the same outfit.
Which we're doing
right now.
Yeah.
Like anytime the camera turns on and I see you wearing it, I'm like, oh, man. But
I'll be honest with you. Right? Since I got this thing, I haven't taken it off.
Seriously.
So there's a fair chance we're wearing the same thing. Yeah. So the stuff is just incredible. And look, we're gonna need it. Talk about making everyday playable. You said 39 degrees on, but we're playing. So we'll see how that goes. But let's talk a little bit about chipping from the rough. And it's, if you check out, we'll link to the article. We had an article on this recently on Golficity. You could see the top picture that's taken at Kings Barnes. That's a perfect example. I'm standing in probably a 6-inch deep little heather there. And trying to chip right to the green.
That's a great photo right there. Yeah.
And it just kind of shows you it's out there. You see it a lot. And there's all different types of rough too. So you can have something like that's a little bit thinner, wispier, but a little bit longer. Then we've played in that, like, I'm trying to think of, so one of the best example I could think of right now would be Hudson National. Mm-hmm. That rough was enough to stop a moving train. I mean, it was just like thick, and you just knew that the club was going to have trouble and the ball was going to have struggle getting through it. Similar, Baltusrol was like that. So you get that really grabby stuff. Then when we play down in Florida, it's a little bit more of that like knotty type of rough.
Yes.
So you get all different types of it, and everything's going to cause the ball to react a little bit different. But the first thing you want to do is understand the challenge. And this is something that I've been working on with my progression in the game, is just kind of being a little bit more thoughtful about like why things happen. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like understanding more so than just having this general like idea that the rough is going to kind of slow things down, but like understand like what it is, like how is it going to affect it? And I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I think the best I've seen someone like their thought process on anything like this. It's Phil Mickelson. If you ever get a chance, and we're lucky and fortunate enough that he is so good with the media that he will stop and explain things. I think it's just because he loves to like nerd out in general about golf, right? Mm-hmm. So when you hear him talk about it, like you realize how much he's thinking about the lie and how it's going to impact things, like, you know, how it's going to impact the way that the ball interacts with the club, interacts with the ground, and it performs, that type of thing. So the first thing is, and when you understand the challenge, obviously there's going to be an issue with the ball coming through a little bit cleaner when the rough. There's all those things that we would normally relate to hitting out of the rough, which would be the obvious. Like it's going to be thicker. It's going to be a little more grabby. It's going to slow your club down. You're going to need a little bit more speed to get through it. But the other thing that I hadn't given a whole lot of thought to, but it is really critical on a shot like this, is that you're going to have a lot less spin on the ball. And you and I, Mike, we've been learning more and more about this as we go through fittings, and we did that ball test when we were up at Manchester Lane, and we did with the groove wear, and we start to learn that how much of an effect anything that comes between the club face and the ball has on spin. So it could be water, it could be, grass, it could be sand, or it could be a combination of those. You get, especially when you get that wet rough. So as you do that, obviously it's going to be less grabby. You're going to have less of an opportunity for those grooves to grab the ball and give you that backspin. And the more worn your club is, the more that's going to happen, right? But even with the freshest grooves, you still have to be aware of it. So part of that is going to be, and again, especially with a chip shot, if you're going to have less backspin, you're going to have a little bit less stopping power. So it's going to end up rolling out a little bit further. You're going to see that bounce and roll out much more than you would chipping from a clean lie. So you need to understand that, because what's going to happen is you're going to want to change your target, which we'll talk about in a second, of where you're aiming. But first, it's understanding that. So that's basically what's going to happen. You're going to get something between that club and the ball. That's going to cause a little bit less backspin, but you're also going to have, your club is not going to be moving through as cleanly. Occasionally too, you get a little bit tangled up in the grass, and then the worst case is the ball doesn't come out at all. You get stuck right behind it, but it can kind of grab that club face and close that club face down a little bit. So you need to kind of know what the physics of what's going to happen is, so that you can adapt and change to meet that challenge.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point, because Spreck gave me a great tip at Hudson National from greenside chipping. He said he was looking at my grip, and he goes, "You got a weak grip for a rough chip." He goes, "What do you think is going to happen to that club if you got a weak grip?" I go, "Oh, it's probably going to open and turn in my hand." He's like, "Exactly." He's like, you grip it a little bit tighter and come through that ball a little bit, and don't decelerate. And just, I was gripping him kind of weak.
Weak or loose?
I'm sorry, loose.
Okay.
Like a loose grip.
Yeah, so he's not saying to have a stronger grip in like turning your right hand, you're saying.
No, just have a tighter grip.
A tighter grip. Okay.
Tight,
okay.
that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. So tighter through, because if it's not as tight, the thick rough is going to grab that club and turn it all different ways. And I was like, now, like today, the last time I played, ever since that, it's one thing I think about when I line up a deep rough chip, and it's helped a lot. So a lot of these little tips they just go a long way.
It really does. He gave me a similar tip on my putting way back when we played the first time we played Sleepy with him. He actually, and I always thought like you really want to have a nice loose, relaxed grip on putting, and he found that my grip was too loose, and it was causing a little bit of wrist break, and it was causing some issues with consistency, especially when it comes to distance of the roll. So we tightened that up a little bit, and it's been improved for it. But hopping back into it, one thing that is very similar with a chip, as with any time you're in the rough, is that a key goal should be getting the ball up and out of the rough as quickly as possible. And one big way to do that is to use more loft. So for example, if you think about just that first couple inches of trajectory, if the ball is coming out low, it's going to interact with more of that long grass versus if you can get that ball up high. Now, every millisecond that ball is moving through that grass, you're introducing all these variables. How heavy is the grass? How wet is the grass? Are there other things in the grass that might, cause the ball to, change its course a little bit, slow it down, whatever. So very similar than if you were the very deep rough somewhere else on the course and we talk about like wedging it out or whatever it may be. Similarly with a chip, you're going to want to use more loft. So you may be used to, let's say you're very used to and comfortable with chipping with your 7-iron, but you're in a little bit of a deep rough spot. Here's where you want to be able to adapt. Pull out something like a 52, 56, 60 degree and try to chip with that, knowing that you're going to get more air under it because you're going to get the ball up and out quicker and let it carry more of a distance in the air rather than that lower roll. Now, I understand that this comes with practice. I'm a type of person who I like to chip with one club. I get very comfortable with it. So it becomes a little bit harder to adapt to different situations. So this is where you can say, I'm going to be faced with these situations. Maybe I should practice some of these things. And one thing you can do is practice chipping with a more lofted club. And then that way you're going to be able to get that a little bit higher and out of the grass. The second benefit to this is if you're knowing that you're going to have less spin because of the grass, as we just talked about, you're going to need another way to stop that ball. And the other way to stop the ball, which would be getting a little more height under it, coming in at a steeper angle, it lands a little softer versus trying to power through it with a less lofted club, let's say like a 7-iron, and then understanding you're going to have less backspin and you're not going to have as much of an ability to stop it. So if you can do that, if you can get a little bit more air under it, get it up, get it out of there, and then use, as I said, that angle of attack to stop it on the green a little bit better, you're gonna have a better time of it. Yeah, that's for sure. Also, another thing you want to do is make sure you keep an even pace on that swing. This is my number one thing. We point it out to each other all the time. Decelerating. Oftentimes it can happen when you're just not confident with the shot. You're not confident with the amount of, your swing that you're putting onto it. Sometimes you feel like you're taking too big of a swing for being so close to your target, and you slow up, you decelerate. So there is you got to get comfortable with it. You got to know and trust it. You got to know and trust that the lie is going to take something off of it, so you can make a little bit more of a even swing. Also, I think it's better than like bringing it back just a little bit and then trying to power through it, accelerate through it. You want to take that nice even swing and just kind of trust it, and just let that club just kind of accelerate a bit near impact and just like go through the ball rather than giving up on it.
Biggest thing for me, greenside deceleration cure, I guess I can call it, has been 2 or 3 practice swings. The practice swings you never decelerate on. If you notice that, you're always just hit them nice, like that pendulum, nice smooth swing. As far as you brought it back, it's probably the same length that you brought it forward. You do it again, and then you get up. And because, like Sprecher said, the ball adds stress. Because the ball is there, what happens? You change everything.
Right.
So I think if you can work at it. It's worked very, very well for me. I think greenside chipping for me is probably the strongest part of my game. That's where I pick up the most strokes. I think 2 or 3 practice swings and just get up to that ball without thinking anymore and just make a 4th one.
Right.
That's really it.
Well, and you know what the other benefit to that practice swing is? It's going to give you a feel for what that rough is going to do to the club and how much it's going to take off of it. You can feel how heavy it is, how thick it is. You know, unlike being in the bunker where we can't just take a bunch of practice swings and just see like, what does the sand feel like today? You know, we can do it.
Start doing that.
Right. Oh my God. The greenskeepers will love you. They already love you.
They already love me.
Oh my God. But, I think that's a big thing. And that's a big part of too. We've talked about before pre-shot routines and how sometimes people rush it a little bit too much. They abbreviate it. They don't take those practice swings. Do it. And you'll see too, especially when you watch on TV, golf on TV, the PGA Tour and things like that, you'll see guys, as long as the camera cuts to them in time, you'll see that they'll take a lot more practice swings on a trickier lie because they're getting a feel for how it's going to interact, you know, how the grounds interact with the club. But a lot of this, like anything, it comes down to practice. Like you said, it's one of your most scoring areas, is chipping. So you've got a lot of confidence in it, but confidence comes with doing it over time, repetition. So getting out there, practicing it, working on taking that long, steady swing instead of like these abbreviated, choppy, you know, kind of like variable speed swings, that will really help. And you'll get that nice even pace like through the ball. But I think one of the most important things, this is something that I've really worked hard on lately, is picking a smart target. I think very often, if you ask like your you know, more beginner golfer on any chip shot, like what's your target? They're going to say, well, it's the hole, you know? Yeah, it's like, okay, ultimately the goal is the hole, get it in or near, but your target really should be where do you want to land the ball on a chip? And I've been trying to rework my own thinking in this way. Of picking a landing spot and really hyper focusing on that. And I think sometimes that's easier said than done, because even if you sometimes kind of pick a general landing spot, you're still thinking about the pin. And I think, again, it's amazing how your body will kind of like do what your mind is telling it. It's like when we say like, don't hit it in the water, and we're thinking of the water and we end up hitting it there. Similar type of thing. So I think it's like getting that laser focus, but then too, you can kind of adjust your target based on the lie you're facing, because we're generally saying the rough, but no two lies are the same. You know, some are going to be a little bit thicker. Sometimes you're going to be kind of going with the grain of the grass. Sometimes you're going to be going against it. Sometimes that ball is going to be sitting up. Sometimes it's going to be sitting down. I mean, I've had it before. You know, you get that ball sitting down deep and you're kind of going against the grain, and you feel like, you just can't even get it out of there. Right. So different things are going to choose that. So now understanding and thinking about what we said before, what are the kind of the physics of it? And you think, okay, how much grass is going to be between the ball and the club? Just generally. I'm not talking about going out there and counting the blades. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm saying just generally think about it and say, all right, there's a lot of grass here. It's obviously going to be between the face and the thing. It's going to be a lot less spin. So I need to land it much shorter because I'm going to have a lot more rollout. You know, or what club have you selected? How high is it going to come out? Or the other thing too is we're not even talking about the angle of attack. You know, that's a whole other thing. I got murdered by downhill chips.
Yeah.
Downhill, because now a downhill one's naturally going to come out a little bit lower than an uphill chip or a flat chip. So now you think about that too. Now I got like a downhill. Like I realize I got to land it even closer because it's going to have more rollout because it's going to come out a little hotter. So you kind of like look at that. Where do I want to land it? You know, think about, I know I'm giving people a lot to think about here, but I think you can become more used to it, become a little bit more automatic. But if you get the concept, you'll be less surprised and kicking yourself and saying like, why did that ball run way past the hole? But if you think like, okay, they're fast greens today. I've got a lie here that's in the rough. I know it's going to not have a lot of spin. I know I've got I'm using a more lofted club because I want to get it up and out of the rough. So based on that, I'm going to choose a target that is a quarter of the way to the hole, half the way to the hole, whatever it may be. But that's a smart target, rather than just generally thinking the hole.
Yes, 100%. And you know, it's funny. I think maybe a week ago, I posted a video on my personal Instagram Mike FAS4, shameless plug right there. Sorry. Check it out. If you follow me, go check it out because it's case in point right here. First hole at Baltusrol, I had a greenside chip. The caddy said to me, it was in the rough. He said, I think I was maybe 25 or 30 yards from the green. Like, what would you think? Do you remember that one that he said, just get it on?
Yeah.
He said, just land the ball on the green, which was maybe 3 or 4 feet in front of me, he said, and watch this thing run.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my smart target. He was a great target. I got it there. You'll see if you saw it. It runs all the way down to about a kicking, gimme.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect shot.
I do remember that shot. Yeah.
I would not. I probably would not have picked that target without that caddy. That caddy helped me pick smart targets. I'm hoping I can start learning these targets, and I'm starting to put them more in my game. Walking up to the green instead of just going up to my ball, I'm going up to the green and I'm looking at the green, studying the green. Where do I want to put the ball? Couple paces on, because if it lands here, it's downhill, it's right to left. And I've been doing that, and I've been picking these smarter targets. And it's the difference between a 4-footer for par or birdie and a 20-footer.
No doubt. And that's where, you leverage that little bit of course knowledge that the caddy has. But as you get to thinking about it more and more, you start to pick that smarter target. And that's exactly what the caddy was talking about too, was giving you a landing area. That should really be your target. So you got to adjust that. The other thing too is you can give yourself a little bit more of a margin for error in your landing target. If you realize, that assessing the rough, some lies may be more challenging than others, give yourself more of a margin for error. But I think the ultimate goal, we talked about this before, where you get those big blow up holes is when you have the big mistakes. If you can just take the bigger mistakes out of your game, golf's a game of mistakes. We all make them. But if you could take some of the bigger mistakes out, you're going to see yourself saving a couple strokes, per side. No doubt about it. And one big mistake that's often made is when you're not on the green. You know what I mean? You chip and then you're chipping again. Nobody likes to do that. Whether it be you didn't assess the kind of the run out like you're talking about, you landed it too far, it ran across the green, now you're chipping again from the other side, or God forbid it rolls all the way off and it's in a green side bunker. You go from a chip shot to a bunker shot. Now we see things start to really add up. So especially when you're in a position where you're in the rough, it's not necessarily a true attack position. It's not a spot where you want to get terribly aggressive. Your primary and most important goal would be to get it somewhere on the green. I would rather a 20-foot putt. I'd still rather leave my chip 20 feet from the hole than get too aggressive and have it roll back off and be chipping again.
Sure.
That's just the reality. So I think that just you want to assess what is the safest choice here and it's always going back and forth, that risk versus reward, but what is the choice I can make where I can get this thing safely on the green and get out of here, get myself a putt, maybe 2 putt at worst and get out of here. That can be, the really, a good way of thinking about it for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So, that I think would be the most important takeaways that we have. Just going out there, like I said, making sure you understand what it's going to do, what this, how that lie is going to affect the shot, how it's going to affect the ball, and then just kind of adjusting from that point. Use a little bit more loft, get it up, get it out of the rough, and then just pick a good landing spot where it's going to keep you safely on the green and give you a chance to possibly put it a little bit close if you execute the shot and if everything works. But there's no denying it's a difficult shot, only made harder by when the rough is grown in, like around tournaments, or when it's wet, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I said at the top of the show, we miss greens. We're amateurs. We miss a lot of greens. We're not on PGA Tour. So get good at the greenside chip in the rough. Yeah. Run through this because this is the area of the game where you can really grab a lot of strokes back. Serious. I really put a lot of focus into that, having the green in the backyard, going out there and chipping balls all day off the grass onto the green. It's been a huge help. And if you don't have that, then go to your local park and do it. Just get out there and get the feel because it's a huge part of your game. You're going to score from that area. It's
true. And it's something you're right. We can often practice even off the course when we don't have that, because oftentimes like our own grass at home, might be 3-4 inches and you can work on it in your backyard. Yeah. There are different ways you can do it, but you get yourself familiar with it and it's going to be a little bit less scary. That's for sure. All right. Before we wrap it up, the one thing I forgot to mention earlier in the show was our recent 1-iron challenge with Jack.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't get a chance to catch that, it's in the Golficity app. It's on all the different video channels. But we had the opportunity recently to play Baltusrol. We are going to be releasing the full vlog. We're working on getting that together. But while we were there, we took a shot at Jack's famous 1-iron shot from the 18th fairway. It's 237 yards uphill. It is as difficult a shot as you can imagine, especially with a club like that. In fact, what we did, and credit to Mike for digging this one up, Mike just went on eBay and found a replica Jack Nicklaus 1-iron. And I tell you what, man, do I have respect for modern equipment after trying to hit that thing, huh?
You know, I'm looking at it from across the room here. It honestly looks like a TV antenna with a club at the end of it. I mean, the flex of it. It was just. And one guy, someone ripped me in the comments. It was so funny. He said, "Guy hits 5 inches behind the ball." I think it was impossible to hit.
Yeah.
You know, you got to see it. It's like a butter knife. Go check out the video. I mean, do you think the flex on that thing is? It's like
way too flex. I think I can't say that that's the flex that Jack was using. I mean, we just basically found one on eBay and just went for it. But I think with a little bit stiffer shaft, I think it could hit that club. I don't think I'd want to. I think why make it harder on yourself? I would have much rather hit my hybrid from there. But
for sure.
But yeah, it was a challenging shot and we had fun with it. And I think if nothing else, I don't care if people rip us up and say they could have done better. Everybody's a Monday morning quarterback, that's for sure. But I think the bigger takeaway for me was not so much how we performed as much as just the respect for Jack and just knowing that he was able to make that shot from that spot. It's just incredible.
It's that and the other point you made in the video saying most often people don't even think about the 20-foot putt he made for birdie once he got it up there to win the U.S. Open, which was even more impressive.
To win and set the record, set the scoring record, 275, and then to come back there 13 years later in 1980 and beat his own scoring record, shooting, I think it was 273. Is just it just shows you the proof of his dominance at that time too.
Yeah, I just looked up what you know what the lowest is?
The lowest in the US in an Open?
Yep.
Rory McIlroy, like 268, 260.
Dude, exactly.
268.
Rory McIlroy 268.
Yeah.
Guy does his research.
Well, you know what? I edited that video and I wanted to make sure I had my facts right. So I dove.
So I asked the wrong guy. Never mind.
You asked the wrong guy. I dove deep into that and I'm like, wow. And like at first I start seeing his record and then he broke his own record. And I'm like, I wonder how long that stood and who has it now? Obviously you got to look. And it was Rory, but I don't remember what year or where.
2011 Congressional.
Wow.
I think that was his first major.
Yeah. I mean, that's something to set the record. And a U.S. Open.
Yeah, he went super low that year. I remember he blew the field out.
But think about that. To go low in open conditions is always incredible. I still was completely in awe of what Koepka did at Bethpage in open conditions.
And,
these guys, it's sometimes, but again, like you get just so much respect when you try it for yourself. You know, a similar way to do that would be to go play Bethpage and play it from the tips, if you even can.
Right.
And then gain respect for what was Koepka's first round. What did he shoot?
Well, the U.S. Open, it was Shinnecock for Koepka in a U.S. Open. If we're sticking with U.S. Open.
Oh, I'm talking about this year.
Bethpage was the PGA championship.
PGA, right.
I don't know what he shot there.
No, but the first day, didn't he fire something ridiculous? Like
it was
65,
ridiculous. 63. I think it was 63, 64. So,
which is like, if you've anyone who's ever been to Bethpage and stood at some of the tips, just to realize like It's mind blowing. It's a different game.
It really is.
Whatever. We'll continue to enjoy our own personal goals and leave those to the guys who are making big money on Sunday, because that's not us. That's for sure. All right. That's everything we have for you guys this week. Remember, you can get to the show notes by going to golficity.com/episode 296, or as always in the Golficity app. And as we bring you more and more podcasts to Golficity, you'll be able to see them all there in the app. It is free. Like I said, download it. You will enjoy it, I'm sure. We put a lot of work into it. And even if you don't enjoy it, give us some feedback, because we're always working on making it better. So go to golficity.com/app for links to download that on Android or iOS. And we'll see everybody again next week.